Hey guys, it's Rosie. I am super excited to be recording my first podcast episode of I Don't Work Nights, which I planned to start it in April as well with my cooking show called Hear Me Out. But it turns out if you're still working 60 hours a week, whether it's in the morning or it's at night, you get kind of tired. on top of stand up and touring, you get real sleepy and you don't want to do the extra shit you put on your plate. So now I am not working at all. So thank you to everyone who's ever bought a ticket, liked a video, reposted a video, watched a video, anyone who's ever seen me in real life. And thank you to any comic and my management team who's helped me get this far to not have to work, because that's always the goal, isn't it, ladies? I've started this podcast called I Don't Work Nights. I was going to teach myself kind of how to do random things I've always wanted to do, because now my hobby is my job full time and I don't have any hobbies anymore. So sorry, I'm a little sick. I hope I don't sound like Jabba the Hutt. But anyways, I wanted to do this podcast. I was going to teach myself how to quilt, how to needlepoint. I was going to get back into cooking and baking. I'm getting back into cooking and baking on the aforementioned Hear Me Out cooking podcast. First episode will air next week. My first comedian I have on there is the lovely Max Fine, who is a New York-based comedian. We have the same management. Max is great. And I'm super excited. We'll be baking my great Aunt Ethel's pound cake. She's just a little old mountain lady, so she has the best recipes. And honestly, they're really difficult. So I'm hoping that I do it justice. But yeah, I have started this podcast. I was going to be teaching myself how to redo things. I'm going to take you guys with me to collect things, that kind of stuff. But I am I'm very excitedly about to move in with another comedian. What? So I live with 5 people right now. I will be living with just one person starting July. So I just don't have any extra room to be buying a sewing machine and teaching myself how to quilt and embroider right now. I don't have extra craft room, but I do have extra sit in my bed and watch TV time. So the first couple episodes are going to be me kind of delving into inner child TV movie collecting kind of stuff. So this week I've watched all of the historical American Girl doll movies, and I thought I would talk to you about some American Girl doll lore and some American Girl doll movies today. So I'm talking about the main 4 the core 4, if you will, the Fantastic Four, trademark Marvel, if you will. And the core 4 American Girl dolls are Felicity Merriman. She's from Williamsburg, Virginia, and she is a colonial doll from the 1770s. And then we have Samantha, who I do not remember her last name, but she's an orphan. She's from upstate New York, and she is from post-World War I era, but she mainly focuses on women's suffrage, a women's suffrage movement, a big civil rights push, especially with people of color, and child labor laws. The Industrial Revolution. And then we have I think the next one in chronological order would be Kittredge. She is the Great Depression doll. She's from Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we have Molly McIntyre, who is from somewhere in Indiana during World War II. But yeah, those are the 4 movies we'll be talking about today. On my next episode, or next upcoming episode soon, I will be talking to you guys about the Girl of the Year movies. Every year, the American Girl Doll Company releases a Girl of the Year, which is a girl who has struggled with different things. That's kind of been too much, it's kind of a representation of the year they came out. There's a Great Recession doll in 2008, 2009, and her doll best friend was homeless, and that I think is the best American Girl doll movie. I will lock in with that one on the next episode for you guys. But I have some gems to talk about today. I could talk to you about these. I think I'm going to talk to you about them in the order that I watched them, which is not necessarily chronological order. But the order that I watched them is Felicity, Molly, Kit, and then Samantha. I took pretty detailed notes on all of these just to kind of help jot my memory. I really only remember bullet points of all of the other American Girl doll movies besides the Kittredge movie, because that was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. Fun fact. But the first American Girl we'll be talking about today is Felicity Merriman. Felicity, like I said, is a colonial doll. She's from Williamsburg, Virginia. I wanted to be a Felicity girl so bad because that doll was the closest one to where I grew up. But unfortunately, Felicity is a bigot. Felicity has been canceled. Felicity Merriman, the American Girl doll, is a product of cancel culture. She's been canceled and recalled, so now her doll is very valuable. If you have a Felicity doll from the 80s, it is one of the most valuable, like, collectible items of all time. And Felicity's parents owned slaves, so that's why she has been recalled. Throughout her books and her movies, Felicity is an animal rights activist, and she frees quote-unquote enslaved animals, but then she goes home where her parents own people. So obviously feels very hypocritical. But I want to be a Felicity girl so bad. I'm just not a Felicity girl. Felicity was a really big tomboy. Now, I grew up around a lot of boys. I was average tomboy. I wouldn't, even though, 2012 was peak, like, I'm not like other girls. I can skateboard. I like blue. Like, there was a lot of that happening when I locked into these movies. But Felicity was just not my cup of tea because Felicity was the OG horse girl. And from a place with a lot of horses, horse girls fucking suck. Sorry. They were also mean. I don't know. The one horse girl I went to school with was pretty fucking mean. And she was also a racist. So they always are. There's not one horse girl who's not a racist. That's my hot take. You can quote me on that. But anyways, the Felicity movie stars Shailene Woodley. This one is the least stacked, I think, casting wise, of the movies I'm going to talk about. But anyways, sorry, my man texted me during my American Girl doll rant. Little does he know, talking about dolls right now. My boyfriend has been on some, oh my God, Rosie, you text so much. And he would do that when I had 3 jobs. Like, you text me so much. Sorry, I would text you in between shifts. Sorry. But now I'm home all day. So I've made him live his hell. I text him all the time. And I've been texting him American Girl doll, juicy lore. Which I have one other person talking about this, and she also has a job. My old work wife, Angelina, is an OG American Girl doll stan, and for the past 2 years, on either of our birthdays, we have tried to go to the American Girl doll cafe to get turned. But apparently they don't want you to do that. And they won't let me record there. Honestly, big reason why I want to go to the American Girl doll store in Times Square is to get turned and have proof of it. I don't want to just go to the American Girl doll store, get fucked up, and get kicked out. For pussies. Anyways, Felicity, kind of OG horse girl, OG tomboy. She gets in trouble a lot for wearing pants, but it's because she steals the pants. So all of her activism, I feel, very performative. Heard it here first, ladies. I don't like Felicity. I think her movie was most annoying. I couldn't even finish the fucking movie, and I am a film scholar. I'm a scholar. I'm a film enthusiast, but I would not call this a film. This is definitely a movie. This was also, I don't think this one was released in theaters. The only one that I remember being released in theaters was the Kittredge movie, but that could be because I was too young when the other ones came out. I think a lot of these were direct to DVD. I know for a fact all of the Girl of the Year movies were direct to DVD, and they did not have a theater release. But I remember seeing the Kittredge run in the theaters. I saw it for my birthday, and then I remember like 2 weeks later the Hannah Montana movie came out. So it was a big time for movies. Anyways, this movie stars Shailene Woodley of Tumblr 2016 fame, Fault in Our Stars fame. Okay. But this is probably one of her first acting roles. This is pre that horrible teenage pregnant show, which she's also in with Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald is in 2 different American Girl doll movies. What? Anyways, sorry. I am stuffy. Little sick. I actually recorded 45 minutes of this podcast and then realized that my sound wasn't recording. So I'm feeling a little phlegmy. But, okay. movie opens, and all of these movies are also produced by Julia Roberts, which I find interesting. Sorry. Movie opens. She must be about 10 years old. All of these movies start with the girls being about 9, 10, 11 years old in Williamsburg, Virginia. So there's a Felicity's parents own people several times in the movie, including a teenage boy named Ben. Felicity's dad is a shopkeeper and he is a patriot. Felicity's mom is an immigrant from England, and Felicity's mom fucking sucks. She sucks throughout the movie. I don't remember her sucking balls as much in the books, but Felicity's mom sucks. She is a loyalist to the king, as is Felicity's grandpa, a lot of the American Girl dolls have really interesting relationships with their grandpa. I don't know what this is about, but Felicity especially really, really close to her grandpa. Felicity's grandpa, huge bigot. Grandparents in these movies tend to be bigots, and so do the parents sometimes, but like in this case. Felicity's dad has a contract with this child named Ben, who at the start of the movie is 14, and Felicity's 10, and Felicity definitely has a huge crush on Ben, but we all been there, girl. All been there. She says several times to him throughout the movie when they're like running around stealing shit, she goes, Ben, I am no child. I'm no child, Ben. Listen to me. She's 10 years old. They're both children. I wouldn't take advice from a 14-year-old, let alone a 10-year-old. Anyways. Yeah, they're literally talking about at the dinner table in the first 15 minutes of the movie, the whole family is literally talking about like the state of Virginia being a commonwealth, and Williamsburg, Virginia was the epicenter of the Revolutionary War. I don't know if I said that before this one. A lot of this I'm saying almost verbatim the same as the last 45 minutes podcast I recorded that did not have sound, but Williamsburg, Virginia is kind of the epicenter of the Revolutionary War. I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and Spotsylvania County, which a lot of the buildings have been historically preserved where I grew up. They have cannonballs in the side of houses that cannot be removed because they're not going to explode. There's bullet casings all over the ground. Like if you go back to some Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania County, like people who've been there a long time, if they dig in their backyard, they find a lot of old native jewelry, native arrowheads, and they find lots and lots of bullets, cannonballs. Those are pretty average to be found when you're like building a new house. But anyways, Felicity's mom is pro-king. She's a loyalist. But Ben, the boy she has a crush on during the books, and Felicity's father kind of lean to what would be the left. They're pro-patriot. Felicity routinely breaks onto her neighbor Jiggy Nye's property. Jiggy Nye, also is supposed to be from England. In the movie, he is a loyalist. In the books as well. But in the books, I remember him being Scottish or Irish, a nationality that would also hate England. So I really don't understand. Jiggy Nye is a drunk and an animal abuser, and he beats on all of his animals, but Felicity really focuses on this one horse that she names Penny. That's not the horse's name, but she names it Penny, that Jiggy Nye cannot seem to tame. Felicity routinely steals Ben's pants and breaks onto Jiggy Nye's property so she can see the horse. She steals the horse repeatedly and then to ride it and then brings it back. One night in the middle of the night while it's raining, it's very dramatic. Felicity and Ben sneak onto Jiggy Nye's property and they hear Jiggy Nye beating the horse, and Jiggy Nye, which also sounds like a slur itself. I wonder if that's not actually his name and Felicity just hears rando slurs. But anyways, she hears Jiggy Nye beating this horse, and her and Ben go to stop it, and they hear Jiggy Nye say, I cannot tame this horse. Whoever can tame this horse can take her. Sorry, I heard noises. I live with too many people right now. She hears Jiggy Nye beating on this horse, and he says, I cannot tame this horse. If you can tame this horse, you can have it. And he's shouting at this guy, but of course, in Felicity's 10-year-old brain, that means, oh my God, I can take the horse. So I should wait for him to fall asleep and take the horse. So they steal the horse. I literally, in my notes, I said about halfway through this movie and Felicity fucking sucks. She does. I couldn't finish this movie. I got about to where there's 20 minutes left, but you start to realize what happens. They steal the horse. Jiggy Nye is pissed, obviously. She stole her property. Felicity's dad offers to buy the horse, but Jiggy Nye's like, I know you're a patriot. I will not sell the horse to you. I refuse to sell you this horse. Somewhere along the lines, Ben runs away, we assume to join the Patriot military, to join the Virginia militia, which he cannot do until he's 16. So we don't know what he's doing. We don't know what he's doing. Ben is a runaway. He's a stray, which he was before, and that's how he became a slave. But anyways, her crush runs away. She goes to visit her grandpa for the summer, and her grandpa magically has Jiggy Nye's horse. That Felicity is named Penny. He has Penny. He kind of teaches her how to properly ride it. But it is complained about throughout the film that Felicity rides the horse like a boy. What? What does that mean? She doesn't ride side saddle. She sits straddle on the horse. There's a word for it, but I didn't pay attention to it that much. But the grandpa puts a bounty in the paper for Ben's arrest, and it says alive or dead. So Felicity's like, fuck, I gotta find my meat. I gotta find my man. She finds Ben in the woods, and he has injured himself trying to join the militia, but he doesn't even get there. He trips and falls and breaks his leg, and his bone is sticking out. Nasty. Anyway, which that is like a death wound in Colonial Williamsburg. I don't know how they're like, let's hand dip candles to fix this. Anyways, they kind of communicate with letters through Penny's satchel. Penny walks back and forth, and Felicity brings him food. Ben apologizes to the family. Felicity brings Ben back to the family so he can get medical attention. And Ben apologizes to the family, even though he has breached his contract and has missed about a month of work. And they decide Felicity's dad, who's also a patriot, decides to kind of pardon Ben and says, when you turn 16, you could enlist in the Virginia militia. So you have 2 more years with me. And then if you still want to really bad and the war is happening, I will let you enlist. And then once you turn 18, you have to return to me and work for me for the remainder 2 years of your contract. I have you for 10 years or whatever. And then grandfather passes away. And while they're all visiting grandfather in Jamestown, Virginia, which is about 3 hours in the car, so it was probably a day's travel by horse or wagon. And they have a very dramatic funeral, and Felicity is standing with the horse the entire time. And you're like, okay, girl, chill, girl, down, girl. That was stupid. That's the weird thing about recording these by yourself. It's if I was doing this with somebody else, yes, I can talk on my own for a long time. I'm a D1 talker, but recording this by myself, I'm saying every little stupid thought that comes to my head in hopes that when I watch this back, I can clip it. But that's also the worst part about this is I'm editing all of this myself. So if you're like, not everyone should have a podcast. Podcast equipment is too cheap. Oh my God, did the Journal Factory explode? I had to watch this probably 3 times. This is cut number 3 that is making it to y'all. Okay. Anyways, Felicity has a set of best friends. Felicity is best friends with the younger sister, who's probably 2 years younger than her. And then there is a girl there who's Felicity's age, whose name is Elizabeth. No, I think Elizabeth is her. Yeah, Elizabeth Cole is Felicity's best friend. And then I forget the older sister's name because that's how fucking forgetful this character was in the movie. In the books, I remember her a little bit more, but the Felicity books were not my forte. I probably read the first 2 of those, but I got a lot of colonial history where I grew up. I didn't love the colonial doll. I just wasn't, like I said, wasn't horse girl. Wasn't animal girl. I was not animal girl tomboy, But the sisters are British, and the sisters that are her friends are loyalists. And for the first half of the movie, they do not talk to Felicity anymore because Felicity is a patriot. Felicity's family are patriots. And then the second half of the movie, after 1776, there's a little bit of a time skip after grandfather passes away. After the Declaration of Independence is signed, all of the loyalists, including Jiggy Nye and Elizabeth and I think Annabelle, I don't know, something colonial. The Felicity's friend's dad is thrown in jail. And that's how they get the horse from Jiggy Nye, because he is in jail and cannot claim his property. But Felicity finds out that her friend's dad is in jail. Apparently, Felicity's dad is like big, powerful man, even though he owns a store. I don't know how good this store is. There's probably more than one store. Didn't know Felicity's last name was Walmart, but Felicity's dad ends up talking to like a congressman or something, or a governor, and they free the friends' dads. And so now they can all be friends again. This is about 45 minutes into the movie. The movie's only about an hour and 15 minutes long. Felicity's mom, somewhere in the story, gets pregnant with Felicity's youngest sibling, and it's a little girl. Felicity's about one of 5 kids at this point, which... rookie numbers for the time, okay? Rookie numbers for Mormons now. Felicity is in like girl cotillion school, and there is like it's supposed to be like the scene, definitely. Like I set up to be like the scene. In the beginning of the movie, Felicity, everyone is still drinking tea. This is pre-Boston Tea Party. They're teaching everyone how to accept their tea. And Felicity, cream or sugar, cream, milk and sugar. And then they'd say 1 sugar, 1 milk, and then Felicity, and when you're done drinking tea, you're supposed to flip the cup over, put your spoon on top and go, "I will take no tea, ma'am." And then after the Boston Tea Party happens, her father stops selling tea, and the parents get in like a divorce level argument in front of all 4 children. And the mom is like super pregnant at this point. And they get in a really big argument. They stop selling tea, and then Felicity's like, "I should stop drinking tea." And when she goes to girls' school the next day, the 2 British girls are like, 1 cream, 1 sugar. And then without taking any tea, Felicity flips her cup over and goes, "I will take no tea." And you're like, oh shit, okay, oh shit, political powerhouse. And then she goes home to her slaves. So there's that. Felicity's mom gets like deathly ill while she's pregnant, but she's fine. And then there's a big Christmas Eve ball. Felicity's been learning how to dance this whole time, and that's how the movie ends. Big Christmas Eve ball. But yeah, even across the board, everyone has agreed that this is the worst movie. And she's just not my favorite doll. There's not a ton I remember about her. And like in terms of struggle, not that bad. Not that bad. Not that bad, girl. Anyways, these have been on too long. I wanted to do like a relaxation vibe for these, but my granny pajamas are currently dirty, and I really need to do clothes. But like I've established, I live with 5 people, and we have a in-unit washer dryer, which is very nice, but you have to be home all day to really man the dryer, and it's just kind of a fucking saga. And even though I am home quite often, like I'm doing shit, so I can't just run the dryer all day, and it only takes like 4 pairs. Anyways, I dropped off my cute little granny pajamas at the laundromat, and so those will be here for next episode. Next episode, everything will be a little more put together. I'll be a little more put together, but I'll still be cozy. I do think next episode, I either want to talk about Little House on the Prairie, which is a fucking trip that probably will be a 2 or 3 part series talking about all the Little House on the Prairie TV show. Like, it is just so much media to consume. And I have a couple of long flights coming up, and I have about 12 hours on a bus towards the end of June. So that might be my Little House on the Prairie moment. Next episode will either be Little House on the Prairie or all of the Girl of the Year movies. There's about 6 Girl of the Year movies, 5 or 6 Girl of the Year movies, and a new TV show about Julie and Ivy. Julie is a doll from the 70s. So maybe I'll talk about that next episode. Leave me in the comments below what you think I should watch or talk about in next episodes. If I come across some stupid piece of media, I might write a bit about it. I don't know. I don't know. This might turn into like a series of episodes where it's like I make a podcast episode and then do a Substack. But I feel like if I do a Substack, I'll be really insufferable. Podcasting already makes me feel insufferable. But at least it's not a man on the street show about American Girl dolls. So you should be thanking me. Okay, next movie I watched was Molly. I do remember a lot about Molly. I loved Molly's books. I was a huge into like vintage things when I was a kid, and I really loved like 40s, 50s, 60s. That was my thing. Not necessarily 80s, 90s, but like 40s, 50s, 60s. I really loved like 50s and 60s era cartoons, and they all had a lot of really heavy World War II like rally as a country kind of stuff going on. I really loved Popeye the Sailor Man. That was when I watched with my dad a lot. Old Woody Woodpecker, Betty Boop. And then my favorite of all time was probably Rocky and Bullwinkle. And I really didn't understand a lot of the historical context of that show because it was so like Russia is bad. Germans are bad. Like, it was just a lot of that. And the Molly movie kind of touches on that a lot. I never heard the books touching on that a lot. And but I loved all of the fashion. Like, I would wear full-on historically accurate, like, 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s outfits to school every day. I was a weird fucking kid. Anyways, I did really like the Molly movie. The Molly movie stars Molly Ringwald as Molly's mother. And her dad is, the actor who played her dad is in a ton of stuff. I just couldn't remember his name, but he has one of those faces. The Molly's kind of a girl's girl. I also remember Molly had little tap shoes, and I was a tap dancer, so I loved that. So a lot of the dolls had best friend doll companions, and Molly's best friend doll companion was Emily Bennett. She was a British orphan who the family took in for a long time during World War II. Oh my God, I'm getting a text message. Okay. Sorry, my Mormon best friend is in town for Fleet Week, long story. And I've been trying to set up a meal time with him, but he's here all week, so who knows? I might not actually go out. I want to get this done. But, okay, Molly's best friend is Emily Bennett, who Molly fucking hates for a long time. She fucking hates Emily for like a book and a half. Not even like a chapter. Like a long time. And they kind of touch on this in the movie. But Felicity's best friend doll was one of the little British girls. Like, some of the dolls didn't have great best friend dolls. I remember Felicity had one towards the end, but Molly had the OG best friend doll. And then Samantha and Kit also had one. But Felicity just wasn't as cool. I'm a Felicity hater. Felicity's ranked on number 4 in this list. The movie kind of opens, and Molly and all of her friends are like fucking obsessed with her kind of cool young girl teacher who's probably 18, 19, 20. Like, definitely not that much of an adult. She's engaged to an active duty army serviceman. Excuse me, I'm kind of burpy. The movie, I wrote down this line. The movie starts in this like soda shop, and where they see the teacher, and the soda shop is out of ice cream, and the guy who runs the soda shop is like, "Come on, girls, for the war effort, just get a soda." And they go, "No ice cream, that's too far. No, that's too far." I'm like, damn straight, that's too far. This is, I forget it was American education system. I was like, this is Woodrow Wilson's America. I don't even think that's right. FDR's Great Depression. Anyways. They go, actually, that's too far. They're in Jefferson, Indiana. So this is also like a Christmas Story, like Ralphie and the BB Gun era America. Midwest, very Midwest. They all have very Midwest accents. They find out that the teacher's husband is being shipped off like right before school starts, right before she has to go to work for like 8 months. They ship her off. Yeah, Molly tap dances. I loved Molly's tap dance shoes. I had that set for my doll. It was the American. I had like an I Look Like Me doll, and Molly. I got Molly's tap shoe set. It had tap shoes, cane, and a little hat with like plaid around it. Anyways, Molly is really bad at tap dancing, and her tap teacher announces this thing for the school year next year called the Miss Victory pageant. And whoever is Miss Victory not only is the best tap dancer in the class, but like represents the American war effort and what it means to be victorious. And you're gonna find out like some of the bullshit Molly's been through at the end of this book. Be like, duh, she's Miss Victory. Like, no way a teacher could hear about all this shit going on at home and not make her Miss Victory. You know, that'd be fucked up. That'd be stupid. But she's competing for Miss Victory. There's this bitch named Allison, like Hargrove. That's from Umbrella Academy. Allison H. I forget her last name. And Allison apparently has been tap dancing forever and is super competitive with Molly all the time. Miss Victory, teacher says Miss Victory will be performing at children's hospitals and veterans hospitals to kind of help rally everybody for the war effort. It is Molly's birthday that day too. And because of the ration situation in our country, they can't throw Molly a birthday party, but they can take Molly out for just a nice day. Molly and her dad are very close, and Molly gets a really fancy locket from her dad. And there's an air raid drill later that night. And Molly's dad tells the family, including Molly's mother, who's Molly Ringwald, that he would like to, Molly's dad is a doctor, that he would like to enlist as an army doctor. A lot of his younger doctor friends have already gone. Molly is one of 4 kids. And so that's obviously a big strain on the family. And women are working at this point in time. And Molly's dad decided to enlist as a doctor. And here's a little side note. Molly's mom then goes to hang a blue star in the window, like a quilt with a blue star on it. Blue star means you have someone who is fighting in the war, currently fighting or working overseas in the war. And if the blue star turns to gold, that means that the person is either missing in action or deceased. Soon after Molly's dad leaves, Molly's mom is really struggling with the bills. And Molly comes home from school, her mom is not there, and she's a horrible neighbor, Mrs. Guilford, come to babysit while her mom gets a job. They find out she's building fighter jets, and she's the best one there. Damn straight, Molly Ringwald. But Mrs. Guilford's both sons and her husband are working at war, and her husband has since passed away. And one of her sons is active duty. Mrs. Guilford has a blue star. And the window in the books, they leave this out. Mrs. Guilford has a victory garden and helps Molly start one of her own. And whenever I talk about American Girl dolls, my mom is like, oh my God, I loved Molly. She was my favorite. She had a victory garden. Anyways, Mrs. Guilford won't let Molly leave the table until she finishes her turnips. Because they couldn't grow things like potatoes in Indiana, they would grow turnips in their backyard. And Mrs. Guilford grew turnips, and that's why they had mashed turnips. But Molly hated them and does not get up until the end of the until after Mrs. Guilford leaves and her mom gets home late at night. We later find out that Mrs. Guilford's son is killed in action, and Mrs. Guilford hangs up a gold star. It's very sad. So Molly starts to feel bad for how she treated Mrs. Guilford. Molly learns empathy 101. Okay. There's kind of like a cut scene. There's cut scenes throughout this movie that are in black and white that are definitely like Molly goes to the movies. And there's a cut scene away about British children coming to America and how bad it is in England. England has been bombed by the Germans, and they start sending British children to America as like wards. And anyways, Emily Bennett, aforementioned, moves in with Molly's mom. All of Molly's friends think Emily's like the coolest thing ever because they are girly girls. They're girls, and they love the princesses. They pepper in foreshadowing. They pepper in talks of Princess Margaret, Princess Anne throughout the entire first quarter of the movie before they meet Emily. Emily starts to tell all of Molly's friends that she knows the princesses. They came over once for tea, and she lived in Bennet Manor. Her parents are Lord and Lady Bennet. But Molly and Emily have to share rooms, which Molly is not happy with at all. Yes, Molly and Emily do end up tying for the spelling bee, which this scene has stuck with me for years. For some reason, I thought that Molly lost the spelling bee and Emily won, but they end up tying because they end on the same word, and it's like favorite or something, like something that's spelled different Britishly. And Emily spells it with an extra U, and Molly does it, and Molly was like, ha, loser, you're stupid. And then the teacher was like, actually, Emily got it right. And so then you're like, bro, I fucking hate this little British orphan girl. But we find out that she's a little British orphan girl. Her dad is alive, but he is fighting at war while the dad was away. Emily's flat got bombed, and she wasn't even rich before it got bombed. She was like living above a shirt factory. But in the middle of the spelling bee, they get the teacher, the aforementioned teacher, gets a letter that her husband has been killed in action, and so Molly's game is thrown off. That's why she didn't remember British spelling. And maybe 15 seconds after that, like literally next scene, they get a family that the dad has been in an air raid and has also been named missing in action. And they have another air raid drill like right after this, and everyone's like, oh my God, what horrible timing, and Emily kind of opens up to the family about how horrible it was being in air raids in England, and she has like a PTSD nightmare. After their heart to heart, Molly and Emily are inseparable. And then, like, as a night in activity, I found this really strange. Molly holds all of her friends captive and forces them to watch her tap dance, and Emily is, like, eating this shit up. Emily is eating this little tap dance routine up, and it is, like, not good. It's, like, shuffle, ball change. Easy shit. But Emily's eating this shit up because, she grew up around bombs. So she's probably pro tap dance if it means not having to do all the PTSD air raid shit. But Molly's aunt is supposed to come down to watch the kids several times during the movie, and then they like bring her up like, oh, Auntie is supposed to come watch us, and she never comes, but she comes for one scene, and she's like, Molly, I can't stay. Everyone's so excited. Oh my God, Auntie's here, and she can't stay because she has enlisted in like a woman's air force, the first women's air force, and has to go to Texas. Time skip to fall 1943. Nobody likes their new teacher. She sucks. Not as cool as cool young widow teacher. But Molly ends up winning Mrs. Victory. Right after they win Miss Victory, they receive a telegram from the government and a flag saying Molly's dad is officially reported missing in action. Emily kind of consoles the family and tells them not to lose hope. She had a flatmate, a schoolmate, who was reported missing in action and then showed up probably 6 months later. But if I had to wait 6 months, no income, as Molly's mom, be like, great, thanks for that. Thank you. Anyways, Molly gets super, super into the war effort even more by collecting scrap metal, and she gets really into her victory garden and starts selling fruits and vegetables to her neighbors, and she sends care packages to the troops, including like cakes and clothes and blankets. She collects up everything. I do remember as an accessory, Molly had like a scrap metal cart, which is like peak fucking capitalism. And it was literally just hunks of like plexiglass. It was like hunks of plastic and fake metal that Molly was selling, like fake copper and shit like that. And she had it in like a cart. That was her accessory. So these are really fucking sad. There are some American Girl dolls that I really wish had a movie because I know it'd be so batshit crazy. I think they picked the 4 tamest of the American Girl dolls to make a movie about. Anyways, Molly gets a telegram from the government right after they've decorated for Christmas. So ambiance is high that they have found their dad, and her dad is just in recovery, and the dad comes home. Again, couldn't watch the end of this one. It's no Kittredge. Molly, probably number 3. But if I had to rank her in how I liked the doll, number 2. Felicity, 4 across the board. 4. Molly, doll, spot number 2. Movie, spot number 3. But Kittredge, number 1. Both times. Movie number 1, doll number 1. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. This was the first movie I ever saw in the theaters. Kittredge is in Great Depression era Ohio. She also had a best friend. She had several best friend dolls. Kittredge, I experienced my first celebrity crush from that movie, and it was a homeless person. His name was Will, and he was I was in love with him. He is a hobo, a homeless person during the Great Depression who likes building stuff for Kit's family. Kit kind of befriends him. He's probably 15 or 16 when she's like 10. And he builds stuff for their family. And for her birthday, Kit has this like blind and deaf basset hound dog. And he builds the dog like a scooter that he can ride on with Kit. And I was like, this is so fucking romantic. This is where I think the Kittredge movie is where my love for trashy blue collar men came. It's not a daddy issues thing. It's a American Girl doll thing for sure. So my boyfriend should be saying thank you. Say thank you, Kanan. Anyways, Kit Kittredge is in Depression era Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. She really wants to be a writer, like a newspaper writer, like a journalist. And she has a fancy camera. They start the movie. She's pretty well off. They live in a mansion. Sorry, team. Need to hydrate. They live in a mansion, and they're doing pretty well off. Kit's best friend, Ruthie, that was her best friend doll. And Ruthie has and then there's also Florence. Kit had several best friends dolls. Florence was homeless from the first scene of the movie. Ruthie's dad owns a bank on one side of on one side of the street. That's on one side of Kit's house. That's Ruthie. And Ruthie has a little sister. Ruthie, her dad owns the bank. They're fine the entire time. Kit's dad runs a car dealership, and Ruthie's parents, Florence's parents are not working the entire time. And one of the first main pivotal scenes in the movie, Florence's parents are evicted from their house and the bank forecloses on their house. Ruthie's dad is not budging, and it takes the house from them, and then Florence and her sisters and their mom and their dad all have to live in a poor house, and they eat at the soup kitchen, which all the kids are like, ew. Oh yeah, this is starring Oscar nominee Abigail Breslin, pretty sure Academy Award nominees Stanley Tucci and Joan Cusack too, and Jane Krasowski. For some reason, I remember Joan Cusack's character being Anna Gaysetter or Catherine Hahn. I think this is a Mandela effect. I remember it being the Anna Gaysetter or Catherine Hahn, like switchy. Whatever. Maybe they're in the Girl of the Year ones. I don't know. Kit kind of opens. Oh yeah, and the inconceivable guy from Princess Bride plays like the editor-in-chief of the local newspaper, where Kit routinely throughout the movie goes to the newspaper demanding that they publish this 10-year-old's article. Willow Smith is also in this movie. Will and County, played by Willow Smith, are kind of walking around in the rich neighborhoods looking for work, for food. They don't want money, they just want food. Kit is in a clubhouse where all of her friends kind of look up to these powerful tomboyish women. Just as Florence's house is getting foreclosed on, Kit's dad pulls up in a shiny red brand new car. A kid at school makes fun of Florence's family, and so as punishment, they all have to go to the soup kitchen to volunteer the next day. On her way home from school, a homeless man takes a stranger's wallet, and the homeless man has like a really strange parrot tattoo. This is foreshadowing, and this is important for later. Kit's grandpa is making fun of the family for being poor. They eat leftovers. Kit's mom uses fabric scraps. He's making fun of her. And his next day, they're at the soup kitchen. I remember there was a harrowing scene in this movie. Kit and Ruthie and all of their school friends are at the soup kitchen, and Kit sees her dad eating at this kitchen for lunch. And apparently the car dealership has been closed for months, and they've just been living on savings. And so Kit is now being bullied at school. The bank took the dealership and their shiny brand new car. Another boy ends up sticking up for Kit. But Kit's dad goes to Chicago for work, and Kit's mom decides to take boarders. So Kit has to move into the attic, and her mom moves into like a sewing room, like an office, and is sleeping on a couch. The little boy who stood up for Kit earlier in the movie moves in, as well as a dance teacher who's played by Jane Krakowski, a mobile librarian who's played by Joan Cusack, and a magician played by Stanley Tucci. Mrs. Bond is the is the mobile librarian, that's Joan Cusack, finds out that the two hobos can't read and gives them books. Joan Cusack gives the hot hobo, my old crush, Robin Hood, and kind of puts into them the idea of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And she vows to teach Will Smith's character how to read. Kit's mom gives Will, the hot hobo, the dad's old work boots that have like a really unique print on the bottom. There's a star print on them. But Ruthie comes over later and says she's going on vacation for 3 weeks to Myrtle Beach, and she's sad she's going to leave everyone behind. All of the kids in the neighborhood are having fun at the house with the dance teacher and the magician and the books and all that fun stuff. But Kit's mom is like, oh my God, we're poor. Stop bringing kids over. Kit writes a story about her boarding house, and the publisher says it's good, but it's just not quite there yet. In Will and County, while they're all learning how to read English, teach everyone how to read hobo. We learn Will meets County's dad like hopping train systems, and County's dad catches influenza and dies, and that's why Will travels with County. Kit goes to the hobo jungle and takes pictures and writes an article about where Will and County live, about how the other half lives and how big of a community it is, and how everyone kind of helps each other. Sterling, the kid who kind of helps her out, she gets upset that her son went to the hobo village, and then Kit's mom takes up selling eggs. All the kids in school were like, if you sell eggs, you're poor. That's the last step before you're poor. And her mom apologizes for being so poor. Stanley Tucci tries to make characters full. It's like a big thing. But somewhere, and Mrs. Kittredge hides all of their money in a lockbox, including all of the Borders like valuables. Hides Stanley Tucci's watch, hides the nice kid's like family wedding ring, hides Jane Krasowski's brooch, all this jazz. Ruthie's dad ends up getting robbed by a hobo while they're away, and they find out that there's a boot print in the dirt, and it's Will's boot print. What? And there's a mail scene where Sterling gets a letter from his dad, and in the letter, the dad kind of asks him to move to New York, but the mom says no. Sterling reveals that the letter is not actually from his dad. He's been sending his mom fake letters, and he sent his mom a letter with $40 in it, which was all of the money his dad had stocked away and given to Sterling in case they were in a pickle. This is when Will builds Kit her scooter. D1 man. He made me a lover boy. Will did. Anyways, the police wrongfully arrest Will. Will says he was jumped and that someone stole his boots, and that's why Will was limping when he was walking. They said someone with a limp robbed Ruthie's house with those boot prints. Stanley Tucci called the police and says, just out of nowhere, that Will takes everything in the lockbox, because then the police go visit Will's tent at the hobo jungle, and then the boots with the star print, and that famous brooch is in his boots, conveniently. So Kit's house is foreclosed on because all of the money they had was in that lockbox. Ruthie's dad gives them an extra month with some begging. And so Stanley Tucci's cousin then moves in, and he has a bird tattoo. What? Like the guy that stole the wallet and the guy that robbed Ruthie's house had a bird tattoo. Plot twist. And turns out Kit was in the room when he was saying all this. Stanley Tucci's cousin has been in every city the hobo crimes have occurred in. And so Kit follows them to their map where they've buried the lockbox, and so does Joan Cusack. Joan Cusack takes Ruthie and Stuart, and then all is stopped. Joan Cusack says she feels bad, takes money from Stanley Tucci and his cousin, and then arrests Stanley Tucci and the cousin. Spot apologizes, gives the Kittredges back their money, and continues to live there. We find out that County is actually a little girl. I forget what her actual name was. It was like Contessa or something like that. And everyone's like, oh my God, you're so cute. Will Smith was a very cute little girl. And they all sing, I whip my hair back and forth. That doesn't actually happen. That's not historically accurate. But all of the hobos come by for Thanksgiving to say thank you, including Mr. Inconceivable himself from the newspaper, and says he will publish Kit's work on the border house and about the mystery that happened at the border house. And then Kit's dad comes home and apologizes for the financial situation he has put them in, and decides that him getting work in Chicago is not what's best for the family. What's best for the family is them being broke as hell together. Ain't that sweet? Ain't that sweet? I have about 10 more minutes left with you guys where I'm talking about these movies and lore, but I don't know. So I'm going to talk about the Samantha movie. American Girl Dolls had some fucking dilfs in them, okay? I remember Samantha's Uncle Guard very vividly as a dilfy man. And then later in the Kittredge books, Will does not become a dilf, but he, I know, grows into one. And a very, Kittredge and Will form a very Lana Del Rey and her husband love story. And it's beautiful. And that's why I have mine now. Kittredge and Will are the blueprint for sure. These are my notes on Samantha. This is Kittredge. So right now my rankings, Kittredge as a doll of the four we're talking about, number 1. And then Molly, number 2. Felicity, number 4. That leaves Samantha as number 3. Samantha, I'm impartial on, but Samantha's movie was pretty good. This one was really traumatizing, though. I think if they had made movies about any of the other dolls, that would have been way too far. Way too fucking far. But if this one was good. Not as cast stacked. I think Kittredge was the last of the historical doll movies they made, and they just shoved a bunch of fucking money into it. Mia Farrow is in these movies. In the Samantha movie, she plays Grand Mary. Anna Sophia Robb plays Samantha. Anna Sophia Robb later goes on to play Soul Surfer, which was one of my favorite movies as a kid, which I think explains a lot. And Anna Sophia Robb also plays young Carrie Bradshaw in the Carrie Diaries. This is Anna Sophia Robb's first acting role. I don't have a ton of notes on this, but this movie was quite the whirlwind. Samantha takes place in post-World War I era upstate New York, and she, it's really not necessarily about the historical era. It's about the Industrial Revolution, and she's kind of seeing all of these injustices and the disparity of wealth happening, which I was watching this one, and I was like, damn, this is the one they should re-release, reboot Samantha. Okay. I also remember I had a Samantha nightgown. I'm 90% sure, and I wore the fuck out of it. Anyways, this one takes place during Christmas time. Very holiday, antique-y, lots of ribbon, like that kind of vibe. Picture that. While Samantha is in upstate New York, she lives with her grandma. Samantha is an orphan. Both of her parents have died in a boating accident. Samantha has a really mean neighbor named Eddie Ryland who she fucking hates. He sucks. But 3 young girls and their dad move in to be their maids and do work on their property. They're all Irish immigrants, and Nellie O'Malley, the oldest of the sisters, is Samantha's age, and then there's Bridget and Jenny O'Malley. Jenny is the youngest. Jenny is nonverbal. She's mute and apparently hasn't spoken since Nellie's mother has passed away from some sort of influenza. Samantha's Uncle Guard comes to visit Grand Mary, who's played by Mia Farrow. Uncle Guard, D1 Dilf, comes to visit Samantha. He lives in New York City, and he always brings Samantha these really extravagant gifts, writes her letters all the time. He keeps voting for Samantha to come visit him in New York City. She's always said no, but he's supposed to take her to the World's Fair. That's kind of what he's coming to do, but that's not what he does. He breaks his promise because he brings home his fiancée, Cornelia, who is like a super feminist. She's a suffragette, and she also is like a child welfare activist. She donates a lot to the orphanages in New York City. Cornelia and Samantha don't get along as quite as first because Samantha's really jealous of Cordelia. She's like, I'm supposed to be the only girl in Uncle Guard's life. And I'm like, damn straight, Samantha, you get it, But she grows to like Cornelia. Somewhere while they're getting ready to get married, Cornelia's veil catches on fire. To show like her welcoming to the family, Samantha ends up giving Cornelia her mother's veil, which is very sweet. It's supposed to be like a tear-jerky moment. But Guard keeps begging Samantha to come visit. Samantha and Nellie hide in the boathouse because Samantha thinks that everyone is trying to move her to New York, and she's not ready for change. She is not ready for it. And she still doesn't love Cornelia. So Samantha and Nellie hide out in their boathouse and fall asleep. In the boathouse is where they keep all of Samantha's parents' things. And so they find everyone in the boathouse. Eddie Ryland, that bitch, snitches on them and says Samantha and Nellie are in the boathouse. And because of this incident, they decide to send Samantha to New York anyway. Samantha is in this like boarding school kind of thing in New York, and they decide to write an essay called The Progress of America. And everyone's like, factories, hell yeah, they're all industrial revolution stuff. She gets a letter from, she doesn't really hear from Nellie. She gets a letter saying Nellie's dad is sick, and so she's been working like ×3. And then after weeks of not getting a letter from Nellie, Cornelia gets a letter from Grand Mary saying Nellie's dad has died of influenza, and Nellie is actually staying in a orphanage. And they find out the orphanage is not well run. The lady who runs the orphanage is scalping money off the top of it, and they really won't let anyone visit the girls unless they're related to them or serious about adoption. They find out Cornelia is a big benefactor or is friends with benefactors of the orphanage, let them come stay, and Samantha starts bringing coats and apples and stuff like that. Somewhere along the line, Samantha... they find out they've also separated Nellie and her sisters at the orphanage, which is not a good thing. Samantha goes to visit Nellie, and Nellie says that she's going to get sent away on the orphan train and be separated from her sisters forever. So Samantha sneaks Nellie and her sisters out of the orphanage, and they sneak Samantha sneaks the girls into her attic. Samantha ends up winning the essay contest on how good factories are. Okay, bitch. Okay. While this is happening, Nellie gets a job at a similar factory. Oh, plot twist. So Samantha, while the girl's living upstairs, steals food from every meal, and Bridget, the middle sister, ends up with influenza just like their dad. And so Samantha has to tell Nellie, and she goes to the factory and sees where Nellie's working, and it's bad. It's really, really, really intense child labor instances. Nellie's working really long days, no food, and somewhere along the line, Nellie's hand gets stuck in the sewing machine, and Nellie loses a finger. I remember in the books too, a little girl's hair gets caught in a sewing machine, at a sweatshop, and they rip her scalp off. Children's book, by the way. You're supposed to be 10-year-olds. I read this when I was 8. Isn't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? Samantha kind of gets Nellie to leave because Bridget is dying, and Samantha has to tell Uncle Guard and Cornelia as well. And they tell Uncle Guard and Cornelia that the girls are sick. Uncle Guard and Cornelia get a doctor, and they kind of work shit out. They get the orphanage rerun. They get Mrs. Fauci, the lady who is stealing from the orphanage, they get her fired, and they get her arrested. And Samantha is adopted by her aunt and uncle and ends up turning her factory paper into why factories are bad. And because children, no older than I, she says, are being forced to work long, crazy hours. And they end up taking in Nellie and her sisters as well. Samantha begs Uncle Guard and Cornelia, be like, please make Nellie our maid, please. And they end up adopting all 4 girls. Ain't that sweet? And then Jenny talks, even though she was mute the whole time. She talked at the end of the movie in a very, God bless us, everyone, like the Christmas Story kind of way. Oh my gosh. And all the girls together bring food and coats to the orphanage. Doesn't that just make the heart happy? Damn. No, I'm going to re-rank them for you just to end the cap it real quick. In terms of dolls, of the ones that I ranked, favorite, it goes Kittredge, Molly, Samantha, Felicity. If I could put Felicity at the bottom, if I could give Felicity 0 points, she'd get a fucking 0. Okay? And then Felicity movie, same thing. Movies, Kit, Samantha, Molly, Felicity. That's my end cap for that. But now this is my first episode. I just hit the hour mark. So if you listened for the whole hour, damn. Thank you so much. I'll be clipping some of this up and posting this online, so you can kind of spark note it. I do feel really grateful that anyone would even want to listen to me talk for an hour, even not about stand up. Who knows? This might help me make new material. I'm getting a lot of, Ray, you don't do enough material. You don't have enough new material. Well, I'm gonna do a bunch of American Girl doll bullshit now. So there you go. The next episode is going to come out next week. It will be about either the Girl of the Year movies, if this one does well, or the Little House on the Prairie series that I'm going to watch on my bus to the Outer Banks. But I do have some really cool shows coming up. I'm going to be in Orlando on June 26th and 27th at Alex's Underground Comedy Club for 4 shows. I really would like to sell those well. My lovely boyfriend Caden James is going to be featuring for me on those, and he surprised me with his stand-up, so I think he'll surprise you guys too. And you know, I've been touring with Troy for so long, and he really has opened doors for me, and I do feel really happy, and I feel like I made him proud, you know. But I'm starting to do stuff on my own, and because he's opened those doors for me, I'm still touring with Troy. I'll be in Plano, Texas at the Mic Drop with Troy on September 11th, 12th, and 13th, or 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever the Thursday, Friday, Saturday is. And I'll be with Troy again at the DC Comedy Loft in January. It's actually the same time I went with him last year, I think. And okay, shows coming up that I would really like to still take us to. The Orlando shows. And then I will also be at the Outer Banks for a soft opening of the Outer Banks new comedy club in Nags Head, North Carolina. Ticket link to follow. I will have all of my ticket links in the description, as well as the links to watch all of these movies on your own. I'm going to be starting a Discord as well, where we can talk about all this kind of stuff. And I would love to have conversations with you guys about all of this. And maybe the next episode I can answer some of your American Girl doll lore questions. I would absolutely love to do that. If you have American Girl doll questions, or you have American Girl doll thesi, even, I will take those, and I would love to riff on them. But yeah, if you have requests of what you think I should watch for the next couple episodes of this while I'm in the process of shifting apartments, please let me know. And yeah, I hope this was satisfactory. This could go well, this could go bad. This was episode number 1, so I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. But that is all I have for you today. This has been I Don't Work Nights, even though I don't work at all anymore. And I hope to see you here next week. Bye.